Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Recruiting is a battlefield where the rules keep changing and the chaos never stops. As the world shifted to remote work, real connection and unfiltered learning have never been more urgent. This isn't just a podcast, it's your survival guide. Welcome to the revolution, your digital bullpen. How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you guys?
We've got Kayleigh in the house. So welcome to your digital bullpen, guys. We're back. I know we took a little bit of a break during the holidays. We're catching up, but please make sure you follow us, like us, share, so we can keep providing you guys with the right tools and resources. But today I'm super excited because we've got Kayleigh. I've known Kayleigh for a while now. We work together over at Accounting Principles. I actually started working with Kayleigh when I started traveling to the East Coast, and Washington, D.C. was one of the markets that I was responsible for. And so I just, first of all, got to see a well-oiled machine there. And that's, a lot to do with Kayleigh being part of that recruiting team. A couple years after kind of working that market, I was given the opportunity to pick somebody to join the strategic directors team at that time. And Kayleigh was really like my first choice. I just loved how driven she was. And just to kind of add to that, she was not only working, traveling, but she was also part of the Win for Youth, which was representing the company. It's a global initiative to give back. So she's just done a lot.
Wow. I forgot. Where did you go? Where did you do this triathlon? I'm sorry, I'm totally going to hijack.
Yeah, it was in
That's okay.
in Lanzarote, so like Canary Islands. So yeah,
it's amazing.
I know, amazing.
And I mean, she was traveling. We were traveling all over the place doing like new hire trainings, and she would just like find places to do her training, and would come in just like finish swimming whatever
I swam
miles.
in Phoenix. I remember I found a pool in Phoenix and swam there.
Yeah. So she's just been like a powerhouse, a trainer, a mentor. She's helped train people across the U.S. And I know she'll share more, but she's now the director of process improvement and training at RCM Health Care Services. And I just can't wait to get to hear what's been new. And I know you've got some fun stories for us. And I just can't wait to just catch up with you, Kayleigh. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. That was such a sweet intro. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
And on a Monday morning, nonetheless, it's like a holiday week, and we are waking up bright and early on this.
Yes,
ready.
And you know what? It was such an easy intro to write, to be honest. It's like Kayleigh's just like the sweetest, and I just had the best time. It was maybe like a year or so that we worked together. Maybe I don't remember the strategic.
Feels like more. Because I know
it feels like more, but it was So
it was a big job. It was a big job.
And it was
people
so
hear
fun.
Strategic director, and I'm like, you were basically a traveling managing director, managing managers, training managers, building their teams, managing their strategy. It's pretty
one of the best jobs personally I ever had. And of course, I mean, we had the pleasure of working directly with Kathy Gans, but yes, it was such a fun. And I think we flew to Denver as well. Kayleigh, didn't we go to Denver?
Oh, I remember going to Denver. I think we went a few times. I mean, because Kathy was there, and I remember meeting Paul there. We were there a few times for sure. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, just tell us what you've been up to. What's new? Tell us about where you're working at, what you're doing there. Can't wait to catch up and learn more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, no, thank you again, both so much for the wonderful intro. And I could not be more honored to be here with both of you. I mean, I know Myrna, we worked so closely together, and Paul, I've just always admired you so much, throughout my time at LHH and getting to know you and work with you as well. So thank you so much for having me. But yeah, I mean, so now I am the director of process improvement and training with RCM Health Care Services. So that is a healthcare focused staffing agency. We're based out of New York, but we have smaller or other satellite offices across the US and actually in the Philippines now as well.
Wow.
So we service nationwide clients. Our main focus is K-12 and education. So actually placing clinicians like in school systems, but certainly focus, and, traditional, clinical settings, like, hospitals, long-term care, nursing facilities, things like that. But yeah, I mean, like my role, it's like, really, what do I not do? And I'm like, I'm sure you guys are both like used to that. And like, yeah, especially like kind of like, at a somewhat like smaller company, you just wear so many different hats. But from like the process improvement side, that can really entail anything. I mean, I'm involved in like, things from like HR, finance, recruitment processes. So I'm kind of involved in like any process that needs refinement. I'm kind of looped in and asked, for my input and oversight on that. And then training, obviously oversee all of our training efforts, our, materials, getting new hires ramped up in training, or, like additional office trainings is needed too. And then it's just kind of like the world of healthcare, which I've never been exposed to, coming
it's
from
fun,
like,
right? Yeah. Like I did it like 2 years ago. And it's like this, whoa. Like,
mind blown. Yeah. Like credentialing is like, whoa, just like a whole other like different game. But like, yeah, talk about like, the need for operational processes with that. So but healthcare is like such an exciting space. There's so many different like facets of it, from like travel nursing to HIM to, to nurses, therapists, paraprofessionals. So there's really just, so much to learn, and I've really enjoyed doing it. And I know someone like on like the executive team at RCM. So he's, personal friend, but also, has been a mentor. He's been in staffing for over 30 years now. So we've always just been in touch about my career. And so just kind of when, he heard about like all of my experience, like managing, an office, the strategic manager role, my experience with Bullhorn, they were speaking with Bullhorn, and they wanted to move to that ATS from their previous one. So then they kind of heard about my experience, and they were like, hey, Kayleigh might be a perfect person to kind of come in, help manage that implementation, help with our training efforts, operational processes. And then, it just kind of all grew from there. So it's been exciting.
That's amazing. They're so lucky to have you, Kayleigh.
They are so lucky. So I have a question. How the heck did you even get into staffing? I always like to ask people who bamboozled you into this career?
Always. There's always a level of bamboozling.
Oh my God. I know. I actually like love this story too. It's so funny. I know, because no one goes to college and is going to get a degree in staffing. So you're like, how did I even get here? So I ended up in DC like right after college. And then, just kind of realized I really liked HR, just kind of like that, people person type of role, and was just interested in it, or maybe, like a recruiter type of position. So my roommate was working with Chrissy Hendrickson. I think you probably both.
Yes.
Yeah. And she was working with her to find a job. And then so my roommate connected, me with Chrissy. And I went in to meet with her, and, and I met with Chrissy, was actually like working, I think, moving over to special counsel at that point.
Oh, okay.
So I remember the room I sat in the track DC office, like it was room number 2.
That's right, because you guys were track. You guys
with
were
Bernadette.
With Bernadette,
that wasn't part of our world at that time.
Exactly.
That's right.
And that was such like an evolution too. So so Chrissy, like, I kind of told her what I was looking for. She sat with me for literally 5 minutes, and she got Bernadette. And then Chrissy like later told me, she was like, oh, like, Kayleigh's going to work here. She's going to be best friends with Lauren Lynch, and, like the rest
oh my God, that's awesome.
So Bernadette came in, and she was like, oh, why don't you work here type of thing, which was the last thing I was expecting. So then, just after that, we had another meeting, and pretty much like that was how I got into staffing and, introduced into the agency world. So the rest is history from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, because at that time, it's like, I mean, I don't remember what year that was, but that, you guys were acquired by accounting principals at that time. So you guys were like part of the region, and and that's all how it went down. I remember that. Yeah, it was so random, it felt like.
Yeah. I know. And it was like interesting because like we were kind of our own like boutique, but we were part of this larger group. And then just seeing that evolution from being like, kind of like your own little, standalone business to then being, enveloped into this larger, machine and organization. And then where everything is super transparent, like, commissions and your ranking and the leaderboard and all of that. And it was like, it was it was a very cool thing to be a part of. And I think something that really helped my staffing career too, just to see what it's like to go from like a smaller mom and pop shop to something much bigger too.
But I'm going to call a spade a spade. That mom and pop shop owned the market in DC.
Yes.
Like you talk about a mom and pop shop, you talk about a boutique firm that really owns the market. Like it was just, I mean, we were always impressed and wanted to know what you guys were doing there, because it was, not only did you guys love each other, like to this point where you're like besties forever, but like you worked so well together. And it was so nice to have that part of that culture kind of be brought to us as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. And that's like, because we kept our name for so long too. We didn't even change our name over for a while because they're like, everyone knows back in DC. So it was like a big transition to like change even the name for you guys. It was like, I think like a year's worth of like,
I think you were like Agilon, formerly known as
right. And we called ourselves Tragilon internally. We had to make it like a slow transition.
Yeah, just like, yes, exactly. Well, you've been in leadership. You've obviously are, part of the leadership group now, and you've managed, your own teams. So what's like a leadership blunder that you see all the time in staffing? I know you have some thoughts on that.
I know. Yeah. And it's probably not super surprising, but I feel like, it's something I've seen, I'm sure you both have too, is just when folks like hire those top performers into a management role or into a people leader role, and that's not necessarily what they're good at, because usually like a top performer gets to where they are because they're so great at sales. They're usually a great individual contributor, and maybe they work well with others, of course, too. I mean, you usually have to succeed, but I've just continually seen that where it's just like, oh, you're just so good at being like a great recruiter, a great salesperson. Now go manage a team. And then that's where everything crumbles, because that's just not where they succeed. They're not motivated by that. So I continually see that. And it's hard to find somebody who's good at sales and recruitment, but then wants to manage a team too, because then you have to kind of put your production like on the back burner, like you
take a pay cut. A lot of times you take a pay cut. 100%. I remember my first promotion into leadership. I did my taxes. They're like, oh, what happened? I'm like, oh, I got a promotion. They're like, what?
That doesn't sound right. The math isn't mathing.
This isn't like working, right? Oh my, that's so funny. That's literally, that is so true. But like, I remember when I kind of made that transition, it was just truly what I wanted to do. Like, I mean, I love the recruitment piece of it, but I knew I just couldn't see myself like doing that for like the rest of my career. So that's where, when I saw those other opportunities, I was excited to take those on. So it has to be kind of that special mix of someone who, sees a career in leadership. So,
I love that. And I love that you pointed out that top performers, high performers typically aren't your best leaders, unfortunately. They're good mentors. Like they could be a
very good mentors.
They could be a great, there's other ways to give them spiffs and have them lead, right? Without putting them in a leadership role, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Have them train on a session or something, or have them come and be a guest speaker and then fly away. So
and then fly away.
But not manage a team day in and day out. So
Well, let me ask you a question.
That's such a good point.
Yeah. When it comes to leadership, like obviously you said, Dr. about some of the blunders, but like, what is the time when you knew that, your leadership was really something that was making waves, either good or bad? Because I think waves are good, and sometimes bad waves are good as well. Bad being change.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. I think, just over my tenure, just managing people, you obviously have to make really tough decisions, sometimes to let people go. I could just, when I reflect on my leadership and when I knew I was making some major changes in waves, is when I made those really tough decisions to let folks go. And sometimes those were sometimes like my top producers in the company, but it really was, for the betterment of the office and, to be able to, have like team unity. So I knew like making those decisions was not easy. And then some people might, just say, you know what, I just don't want to make that decision. I'm just going to let it lie. But I knew if I did that it would just continue to fester and get worse. So I think being able to make those, termination decisions, and with the help of, people like your senior leadership with HR and, having like a real like counsel around you really helps. But being able to make those decisions and then stand by them, then your team also looks at you being like, whoa, she means business. Like she's not going to stand for, X type of behavior, no matter how well somebody's doing. So that really helps to establish like your credibility as well. And that's helped me be more confident as a manager and a people leader throughout my career too, like knowing when it's time to make those decisions. So.
Well, and sometimes I know I personally worked on or around teams where you had that situation and it like brings so much more, especially if they're a top producer, they're, in many cases looked up to, but if they don't have that right attitude, it's like a cancer spreads through the team and
it stops the
really
production of the whole team.
Right.
It's one person, even though they're a top biller. I remember I had one, and I won't name names, but top producer, fantastic, loved the individual outside of work, but would constantly have blow-ups in the office, and it would just the whole team would just stop, and you can't have that kind of cancer, to your point. And I think that's what we call managerial courage, right? And having that managerial courage, and that's something that I know Kathy and Bernadette really had were really big on imparting on us, and just having that managerial courage to take the step and do the unpopular decision. It's unpopular because people are making money off this individual, but in the long run, it's like taking one step back for two steps forwards, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're really protecting the other people as well.
Yeah.
Like
whether they know it or not, you are.
There's like a level of like, let me, take care of you. But when the going gets tough, Kayleigh, how do you normally keep your team spirits up, and like any special tactics that you want to like share with our listeners?
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's like no like magic sauce really, but I mean, something that I feel like I really learned from Bernadette and just watching her and observing her, and it kind of ties into like what we just talked about, is like being able to read a room and like read energy, which I was just always so fascinated by her ability to do that. And just when you can see like, and that's what's tough, we can go on and on about that, about like the remote world now, is that just in a bullpen, like you can see like what the culture is like physically, like are people coming in late, like are they, what's the energy and buzz like in the bullpen, like are people on the phones, like are we energized, like are we making our calls, are we hitting the phones like right at 9, like just being able to I think like read energy is really important, because then when you can sense that, like Bernadette would be like, all right, like let's go out to Starbucks, like let's all go get a coffee right now, like let's just get out of the office, get some fresh air, or let's go up to the rooftop, like let's just do like something to kind of jumpstart our day, or like a little icebreaker or something, like just something like that. I think I tried to learn from her, and then really read the room and my team and see like when do we need to inject some of that positivity, or maybe it is like delivering, maybe it's a more serious message, maybe it isn't all like fun and games, maybe it's like, all right, I'm kind of seeing that we need some tough love here, like maybe we need to sit down and like let's just not do our job order meeting this morning, let's go to the conference room, let's talk about like what's something that's going on in the office right now too. So so I think just being able to pick up on that energy, then you can see what your team needs. Like, do they need to be rallied? Do they need like to have a stern message reinforced or something? So but that takes time too, just to kind of get to know your team and what they need and how they're motivated. But I really tried to learn that from Bernadette and how she picked up on that too. So
she and obviously like we're here getting to know you, but I mean we just all on this call just love Bernadette. So
BBG. BBG. Where did BBG come from? I know Bernadette Gilson, but
Bernadette Barnes Gilson.
Oh, that's right. Yes, BBG.
And it's because like on our phone lines, like we all used to have our initials on our phone lines. Like, so they would like, it would be like KMN, BBG, like, and Lauren was LEP. So we would call her like Leppy. So like everyone's like had their like initial names too.
I see BBG and I'm like Big Bag Gilson. I'm going to have to tell her that's
what it should stand for.
It should Big Bag Gilson.
Totally.
And we will have her on the call for sure. But
we have to.
Let me take a step back, because you told us there's so much to unpack that you just told us about the leadership advice you received. If you had to tell me what the one best piece of leadership advice that you received ever that was like, this was my turning point, and then the worst, right? And we don't have to say it's from BBG because she never gave that advice. So,
never. Yeah. I know. I'm like, I feel like it's more of, and I don't know, just feelings and advice I get. I don't feel like I can sum it up in like a quote, but I guess
Yeah.
I mean, one thing, I mean, it's actually from my mom, she's also, she works for TD Bank and is in HR and has been like overseeing hundreds of employees for like many years now too. So between her and Bernadette, I'm like, I got this, like for any like HR problem pretty much. So, but she always taught me to like break things down. And so whenever like a leadership problem comes up, and it's obviously can apply to anything in your personal life too. She was like, all right, like, let's break it down. Like, what is the core issue here? Let's start from square one, because I mean, any big leadership problem usually has some sort of root cause that maybe you can't see because you're emotionally invested or tied to it, or you're trying to anticipate like what the issue is. So whenever I come across some type of issue, I'm like, I just try to think how I can break it down and compartmentalize like each thing without that emotional attachment to it. And that's always just kind of helped to guide me and ground and like center me to then be able to look at the problem critically and not so emotionally. So very simple, but I feel like that's just always what I fall back on, just to try to problem solve. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Any bad advice that you were like, oh, this was not great advice. Like, I should never do this.
Yeah. Well, no real like worst advice. I mean, I think it's just, how you keep your cards like close to the vest and like capture information too. Cause sometimes it's like, it's tempting to want to tell people like, oh, like I know something about you that like, you don't know that I know or something,
Yeah.
And as a leader, you're privy to, obviously to all of this, a lot of confidential information. So, I mean, I think I've just learned how to make sure that I'm very judicious with the information that I have. Whereas some leaders I've seen, might want to spill that information because they want other people to know I'm in a position of power and that I have information over you that you don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like a power trip kind of thing.
Yeah. And I've observed that not someone specifically, but yeah. So I feel like I've just kind of seen that and be like, all right, I don't need to be that person. I just want to, have the information and just kind of make the next best step with that. So,
I think to that point, one of the things I think that I learned later on, and you just made me think about it, because I always ask them, is like, you shouldn't show team emotions, right? But I learned early on that that's not healthy. Like, teams need to know that you're human and that you have emotion and that you also have bad days. Like, it's okay, right? It's especially in staffing where, you bring all of yourself to work. If you can't be like, oh, I'm bringing all of you except my emotions because I'm this hard rock ass manager, right? That's not, those people typically don't, they don't do well long term. And I think
they don't connect with people. Like, we're in a people business. You have to be a person.
Yeah, there's other places that works well, right? Not in this industry. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you definitely, I totally agree with that. Cause and I feel like being vulnerable, being honest with people, like, and like, I remember in the Baltimore office, we had like a pretty scary, like health situation one time. And I was like, whoa, like, so we like, that was where I had to regroup myself too, like show my emotions, but I actually I had to lean on Bernadette and just like, be like, how do I show up for my team right now where I'm like, I'm showing emotion, but I have my stuff together. So it's like
scary.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I feel like we're in the people business. You have to be a human. Like, you cannot like operate as a robot. So
totally. I love it.
No, it never works. And people regardless, like, feed off of other people, and you don't want that, like, being, the energy that you're giving people. So
speaking of robots.
Speaking of robots, I know.
You just like,
well, speaking of robots, as Paul said, with AI and, it's just obviously such a hot topic, not only in our industry, but like across the board. So how do you personally see it really impacting how we do our jobs today?
Yeah, I know. Like, and that's something, I went to the Bullhorn Engage conference back in May now. So, and that was just one of the hottest topics is AI and staffing, and is AI going to replace my job? And one of like the key, I don't know if it was a quote they had, but one of the key messages they had is that, in staffing and recruiting, AI isn't going to replace you or replace your job, but AI will replace those who are not partnering with AI, or you're embracing it. Yeah, exactly. So I think embracing it and working alongside it will absolutely be key. And it was interesting because Bullhorn also comes out with like their grid report every year. So it's like an industry and like trends report. And one of the most interesting statistics is that like 80% of candidates are open to using AI, which I thought was just so fascinating. Yeah. And want to use it, and they want to use it where it would make the process more seamless or speed up the process too. But they don't want it to replace like the human interaction. Like candidates actually said there was another statistic too. It was like that threshold that loyalty increases in like 74% of candidates when a recruiter reaches out once a week, which to me, I'm like, oh my God, if I reach out once a week, I'm like, that's not enough. Like, more, but that's again, coming from like my maybe old school way of thinking, but so it's like, I feel like it will certainly help like speed up processes. And, Bullhorn is using a lot of different AI tactics throughout like the recruitment lifecycle to, speed up a process here. But then this is where an optimal human touch like would be welcome or encourage. So I think, it's just going to be something that we're, using. Actually, right now we're working with one of our vendors to like pilot this like AI tool in Bullhorn. It's like a card that lives on the candidate record, and it's little prompts. It's like, build me interview questions for this candidate. Or on a job order record, it's like, you have 5 people submitted, stack rank the suitability of these 5 candidates, like who's the best person for the job. And like, it actually picked the person we placed on the job. So I was like, oh, dang, that was really good.
That's awesome.
And
I love it because it's,
we still need to place that person, but then we could use AI to be like, okay, this person is, instead of looking over 5 resumes, having to screen them and talk to them or something, we could use AI, go to this person first, and then maybe present that candidate to the client quicker that we have a great relationship with because of like the human interaction piece. That is what could speed up, I feel like, and make a huge impact.
And that's a great point, the speed up. Like, I think that's, and I can't remember who we talked about this with, but it's really the speeding up the process and allowing, AI to help speed up the process without taking away from that like human element. Because even if they did pick that candidate, right, if you haven't been building a relationship, if they don't even know what staffing firm you are, like you're just a random resume in a database,
they'll ditch you in a heartbeat.
You wouldn't have been able to probably place them. There would have been a lot more steps to be taken to get that person possibly, lined up for that job. So.
And Kayleigh, it's interesting because this is something that I've dove into, and this is a personal plug, but like there's companies like Glide and other ones out there, but there's a company called Harmony that I've been working with building a bot that just to do it's all, because the stuff that recruiters, it's the inbound resumes, right? We can't manage all of them, and reconnecting with people in our system, right? Those are the 2 areas that we're actually using this bot to streamline that. And we actually had a time where recruiters are like, we have too many interviews on our calendar. And I'm like,
oh my God, what a problem.
Horrible problem to have. And it's, that's where you want your people to sit. You want your people to sit in that interview activity, to dive in, to really understand that person in the market. And that's really where I think the opportunity exists to help us have more of those connections. No,
that's so true. Bullhorn, like same thing, like developing kind of like a similar like AI screener tool that they asked us to like help pilot. And same thing, it's like, how do we get to those quality candidates faster? Like, so using that screener tool to maybe like, you have them answer like these 5 questions. If they rank like an 80% or higher, like this person is someone that you can get an automation to like speak with. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly it. So I feel like
we had this and we were like on the desk, I'd be like, my God, give me more, right?
Well, could you imagine
oh my God.
Could you imagine having this system while you're like, and I know this is like an old school, I'm sure, thing that we did, but like our 6x6s, like,
oh my God, that's 6x6.
Having, it was like, you had to build these, list. But imagine having like this active list, just pumping up the right candidates for those like 6x6. How much easier would it be to build those relationships and be able to call those people on jobs so much faster?
I'm literally training on the 6x6 still. Like it is because it is. I don't, and it is. It's. I mean, it's a new, but it is. It's just The whole point is you have to go to market with, you can't be everything to everyone, right? You have to specialize.
Right.
So what are the 6 roles that you are going to be really good at? And you're going to have these candidates that you have the relationship, have commitment to accept on their behalf. All of these things that really just help drive it. But yeah, it's funny you say that here because I'm literally so excited about it.
And to your point too, Paul, like just like leveraging your own database too is so important. And just having like AI be able to scrub that and then, help you like reconnect or then, send out like re-engagements to help people like update their profiles and things like that. I mean, like leveraging your own database of all these candidates that we have is so important, especially with job boards.
There's gold in that ATS.
Oh my God, I know. That's just like exactly.
Always.
And most of the time I talk to a company where we're talking about this AI product, it's when's the last time you had a candidate that you met and then you realized you placed them, but they were already in your system? They're like, oh my God, all the time. I'm like, yes, you probably already know your best placement. We probably already know them. Yeah,
exactly.
They're
and I
sitting
love
in the database.
And I feel like we used to do like incentives for that too. Like, just like if you place someone that's already, you found it like in the database already, I'm like, I got to get back to that. So
totally.
It's a good reminder.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. And if like, this was kind of like a fun one, and I actually was like super surprised that you had something for this one, Kayleigh. But if your leadership style had a mascot, what would it be and why?
I know. It's funny. I was like thinking about that because I know we actually did. Like, we had like a leadership summit a few weeks ago, like in New York, and we did like a personality test, which is always like so fun to do. And it was actually like animal related. Like it was like beaver, otter, lion, like something else. Like so. Of course I was a lion, and like most people in the room were lions. So we're like, oh my gosh, how do we like all work together? Because we're all like personality type. And I feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm also a Leo too, so maybe that's why. But
you've leaned into that. You really leaned into that.
I just lean into that persona. but I feel like that it's also just somewhere like I usually am one or not afraid to take charge, and I usually can be an outspoken person like in the room. I'm not afraid to like rally people, kind of make fun of myself, like be gregarious a little bit. Like I love like recognizing other people. But I feel like that kind of is indicative of my leadership style. I like to get like things done. I love, I mean, one of the biggest things I love, like collaborating. I mean, I feel like lions always operate in a pack. But I love working with other people too. So I feel like it is kind of indicative of how I like to lead. And it's also just indicative of who I am as a person too. So it's nice.
Absolutely.
To like kind of mesh together as well. So.
I love it.
Kayleigh the lion baby.
The lion.
The lion, Oh, I even have like my cheetah print on too today.
Oh my God. She's like,
that was not even on purpose.
She's like, I'm prepared.
Like I am living, breathing like my persona.
Yes.
Last question before we get into like our fast forward lightning round is, do you have any like hilarious or weird stories from your leadership journey that you've never shared before? You can be as raw as possible. Just don't use names. That's right. Or use them. I don't care.
Who cares? It's been so long now anyway. It's like we're people, so oh my gosh. Well, I feel like I probably have like, I don't know if I've shared them with you guys, but I feel like I tell the story about, I mean, just the first temp I ever placed, like I'll just never forget. I don't know. Did I tell you the story, Myrna? I don't know if I did.
I think you did. You did.
Probably did like a million years ago. Yeah. But like, but I also feel like it just, again, has helped me so much in my career too. But the first temp I ever placed, placed at a very like prestigious consulting firm in DC. They're like, an A+ client, like very professional. I'm like, oh my God, like I placed somebody there. Like, wow, this is so great. And that temp got caught drinking on the job on his like last day of the assignment. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, what did I do?
He was celebrating. He completed his assignment.
I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I'm like, this is at a very well-known client that we have a very good relationship with. Like, did I just ruin it? And like, and I remember where I was sitting in my corner desk and like where Bernadette was sitting. And she was just like, you weren't the one drinking on the job. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I wasn't.
Right.
Like, it's like,
I don't know. Yeah, you don't have to own that problem.
Right. Yeah. Or like take it personally. It's like, we all made a decision, to place this person on the assignment. But I think that also just helped me so much because, if another leader would have said, you know what, Kayleigh, this is all your fault. Or like, how could you let that happen? Like that would have probably I don't know, could have steered my career decision in staffing so much more, because it, it is such a people business. You can't take on what other people do like as your own actions. Like there's only so much you can control. So the fact that she immediately said, you know what, this is not something that you did personally. We'll take care of it. We find someone else. We apologize to the client. Like, we move on like that. And that was, again, the first person I placed at a great client. Like that just really helped me solidify, you like, be like, all right, I think I can do this. Like, I love people. I love this business, but that gave me the confidence to be like, all right, this is okay. Because otherwise, if it didn't, I could see it going like a different direction.
I think that's another nugget right there. I mean, just thinking about how as a leader you treat somebody when they make a mistake, like it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't your mistake. I think that we have to remember that you liked the person. You probably had somebody second see the person. They saw the same. The client probably interviewed them and also liked them. Right. So we all agreed that we're going to make this decision together. Right. If something goes wrong, we're like, okay, well, we made a wrong decision. Let's move forward, right? Not our problem, right? I think it's like, hire, was it hire slow, fire fast? Totally.
Yeah. Oh my God. I still say that. I literally just said that yesterday, like the other day to my boss. I was like, that is something that's so ingrained in me too. Yeah, that is so
well,
true.
And how does that even come up in like an interview? Like, how do you dig in for like, hey, have you ever like drank?
Hey, you want to get a drink right now?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to pour myself one. Would you like one?
Should that be a screening question?
You can't necessarily, because I actually had an executive assistant drink a like bottle, like a what do they call, like the
Fireball or something?
No, it was like a vodka bottle, but it was like, fifth of vodka or whatever. And they call, and I literally thought my team was pranking me, that they were, and I like got up from my seat and I'm like looking around like, who was it? Was it Ben Baker? I just like, because we used to like mess with each other like that all the time. And it starts setting in like, oh my God, this is a client. This is a direct hire placement. She's been there for 36 days. And you're just like, how did this?
My fee!
I had to go drive down there because I'm like, okay, well, like, don't give her her car keys. I had to go drive down there.
Oh my God.
Call her daughter.
I think I remember.
It was like such. I remember the client. I won't say who the client is, but I was just like mortified.
Oh my God.
But what do you do? It's like and the client, of course, was like, no, like that was just like such a weird fluke. We'd not noticed that, and but it was like, how do you screen for that type of behavior?
And you can't.
I also think too, though, like we have to remember that people have bad days, and that might just be a bad day, and that doesn't mean she's still not a great employee. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean. And I think it's important that sometimes as recruiters we tend to write off somebody for one mistake. But I've had candidates that were not the best candidate originally, but then a year or two later they became fantastic candidates.
Yeah.
So
oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yes,
I mean, you just have to think.
I've seen that too. Yeah. Well, and everybody's like, they have a life, right? Like it doesn't always go as planned.
We're humans. Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, let's get to know Kayleigh, and we're going to dive into our lightning round here. But what's your guilty pleasure to decompress after a day in the world of staffing?
Oh yeah, I know. I feel like it's like we're talking to people all day, so I just like don't want to talk to people. But definitely, I mean, watching like mindless, like reality TV, I mean, that just has to be like, it's just so easy to turn it on, not talk, listen to other people's drama that doesn't involve me. Cause like we have to talk about like people's drama all the time. Like, so if I can just kind of like, just decompress, like put on like some mindless like TV, it's always nice. I always love, I'm like a sweet tooth person too. So if I just like end the day with something sweet, like I'm good. I'm a happy person.
Perfect.
Perfect. I can end the day on a high note. So
is wine okay? Is wine necessary?
Yeah, I mean, I know.
Sweet. Yeah.
After I'm done being pregnant, then I can. So
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about, you talked about TV. I'd like to know, like, what's a show that you binged watched lately or you couldn't get enough of?
Oh yeah, I know. So over the holidays, everyone was talking about like, well, my mom like goes through like a bunch of different like shows, like this, like thriller shows and stuff. There's this show on Peacock called The Day of the Jackal with Eddie Redmayne. Like he was, I think he was in like The Theory of Everything. And oh man, it's about this like hitman guy, and we're just like obsessed. We can't like stop watching it.
I'm gonna have to add that.
So like,
that's Myrna's. That's kind of Myrna's loves that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
Love
very
a good
quick, like
thriller.
fast paced.
Yes.
So yeah, that'll
that.
be a good one to binge for sure.
Yes. Well, what random stuff is currently living on your nightstand, Kayleigh?
Oh my God. Yeah, I know a few like random things now, like especially, but I mean, I have an eye mask now that I always wear at night. That's just like, I mean, because it's been so hard to like sleep and stuff. So I never used to be an eye mask person, but now I'm like, what did I do before that?
Yeah, they're nice.
So, yeah. So always have my eye mask. I love linen spray. Like I always like, I'm like, my husband makes fun of me because I just like have my like bedtime like rituals I like to do. Like, so just
like a Febreze or something that you put over like, oh yeah, okay.
It's like, well, I like to get like the bougie ones and just
of
like
course,
lavender like spray or something. So I always have that. And I mean, and I always have water too, but that's probably the last thing I need now to drink before bed because you're just
right.
I was reading your responses and I thought it said a wine bottle. And I'm like, okay, there's a wine bottle.
I like that. I like Kayleigh even more.
Me too.
Same.
And she's pregnant even more.
Right. Yeah, no judgment.
Let's just say she is not
like
drinking while she's pregnant.
She's not, you guys.
TSA.
We don't condone that at the
do not
digital
condone it. Oh my goodness. Well,
we condone a lot, but we don't condone that.
right, yeah.
Well, last question, Kayleigh. What is one thing, I'm sure there's a lot, obviously, because there's such good stuff happening in your life, but what is one thing that's really filling your heart with gratitude right now?
Yeah. Well, I think I guess I've mentioned it, but I'm like about like 8 months pregnant now, like with our first child, which is like so exciting. So I'm just like so grateful just to be in this position. I'm like in the home stretch, like due in February. So and I feel like I've just like been so focused on my career and like you guys know like with staffing it's just it's so fast paced, like we're always kind of like thinking about like what's next, and now it's just really stopping to kind of like reflect and be like, wow, like I'm really grateful for this next chapter in my life and really excited to be at the company I'm at too, where they're so supportive of that as well. So that's amazing. Big next step. So very, very grateful for that.
Exciting and scary as shit. It's just,
you're
like, oh my God, I'm growing eyeballs and legs and then I have to take care of it. Like, oh my God.
I know.
Wait, do you know if it's a boy or a girl? I assume.
It's a girl. So
congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I know. We will ask the name because we don't want to spoil it. You're not supposed to say it before the baby's born.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. And I don't even like we're in between a few, but like I feel like I just want to decide when she's here too. Because
yes, I love
maybe
that.
I'll have some feeling and be like, oh my God, this is it, or maybe not.
Your husband's gonna be like, I'm sorry, what?
Right. Or just like pick it out of a jar and be like, I guess this is your name.
I need to put something on the on like the birth certificate before like I have to go to the Social Security office. So it'd be like,
yes.
Oh my God.
So we'll see what happens.
Oh, well, Kayleigh, we're so excited for you. And we're just like, cannot wait to hear when the baby arrives and all of that good stuff. But thank you so much.
Oh my God, what a great conversation today. Like, I just love all the little nuggets of advice. Every time we talk, it's just new stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that's right.
I forgot about that. Or, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Congratulations.
And if you name your baby Paula, I'm okay with it, right? I know it's not ideal.
That could be a contender. Who knows? Add it to the list.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Myrna's pretty high up in it. Like,
I know.
It goes real well with Beavan.
Or BBG, we can just add like the B, all the B alliterations going. So I got a few contenders now, so we're good.
Well, Kayleigh, we hope that you had a fantastic Christmas and that your new year brings you everything with these awesome joys. But thank you again for joining us today.
Oh, thank you both so much. This has been an absolute pleasure and so much fun. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, Kayleigh.